I think we're gonna go on a little redemption trip. Pulled a real frickin' smooth move. And at that point, you may as well just have a ladder. Welcome back to the Lost Cause Ranch. Today, I think we're finally gonna tackle making this fancy little mezzanine that we built actually useful, or at least a step in the right direction. So we got this fancy mezzanine up here, but it is kind of worthless without a way to get up there. Right now it's storing some Volkswagen parts, some Defender parts, but eventually it will house my office on this side, bathroom here. I haven't 100% nailed down the layout up top yet, but there is one thing I did nail down, and that is I am not gonna use a ladder to get up there. Uh-oh. If you're superstitious, we probably got some bad luck coming our way. And here are our supplies for those stairs. Well, I guess these are the majority of our supplies. These are just gonna help. So obviously by the fact that we cleared out this back corner of the shop, I'm willing to bet you could guess where our stairs are going. Man, you guys are good. We're gonna keep these guys tucked tight up against this wall, trying to maximize the amount of room we have to work in the shop. As most of you know, I predominantly collect Land Rovers, which typically means we need plenty of room to work on them. So with them back against this wall, we will run them something like this. For once in my life, I'm not going to overcomplicate the situation, and we're going to do a fairly simple setup. We have some 2x10 by 12 footers, some 2x10 by 8 feet. These longer ones should work out to be enough to make our 2 stringers. We'll chop these up for our treads, so Sasha will be able to climb up to the office. So we're gonna go with just a straight outside mounted stringer with inboard mounted treads. So for that, we need to do just a tiny bit of math. So our mezzanine is 106 inches from the concrete to the mezzanine floor, which works out to be 8 feet, 10 inches. We don't want to take up a ton of floor space with this set of stairs, so we're going to kind of build these more closer to an industrial warehouse setup, and we aren't going to do the typical, I think it's like 40-degree for residential. I think we're going to be closer to somewhere in the 45-degree range. Off the top of my head, I'm going to guess 47. But what I want to do is measure out 8 feet. And the end of that tape there is where our staircase is going to start. So we got 106, 96. Before we landed on those dimensions, I sat and played with an online stair calculator that allows you to stick in a few different measurements, and you can come up with rise and run of each stair. So we just played around with a bunch of dimensions until I landed on something that I liked. As with everything in a smaller shop, it's going to be a little bit of compromise with functionality and saving space. So once we nailed down our dimensions, we needed to come up with our angles for our stringers. Essentially, it's going to be a right angle triangle. We have 2 measurements, so we need to calculate out our hypotenuse. I used to be able to do that on my own, but now we have Google, so I don't waste the brain power anymore. So with our base and altitude stuck in, we came up with 143 inches for our hypotenuse, and our top corner just over 47 degrees, bottom corner right about 42 degrees, along with the length. And thankfully that 12-foot board is 144 inches, which means we guessed right on length. So we're gonna dial in to just shy of 48 degrees for the first side. 42 for the next one. Let's see if this guy fits now. Something like that. And it looks like we got that guy pretty close to what we need. You can kind of get a feel of our size now. Originally, when I was designing the staircase, I was hoping to be able to fit in our little CNC laser underneath there. But you can see that's obviously not going to work, which is fine. We have plenty of other things we can stuff under there to utilize the space. It'll be our little Harry Potter room. Well, now we have a matched pair. Well, almost a matched pair. No, we have a matched pair. I took 1.5 inches off that top corner of the stringer because on the bottom here we are going to put 1.5 inches thick piece of pressure treated wood underneath the stringer where it's going to sit on the concrete. That way we don't get any rot if it wicks some moisture out of the concrete or gets wet. It's almost like steps, right? Now we just need to start laying out where our stair treads are going to land. So being this is in my shop and not my house, I'm going to take some liberties on our step height or step rise, technical term. We're going to have a taller step rise than say I would put in something like my house. From what I understand, generally accepted on residential stuff is a 7 3/4 inch maximum height. With the steeper angle that we have to save floor space, that's just not going to be possible for us to do without making a very short in-depth tread plate. So the part that you would actually use your foot to step on would only be like 5 or 6 inches deep if we were to be under that 7 3/4 of an inch. And at that point, you may as well just have a ladder. So instead what we're going to do is we are going to follow the OSHA guidelines for industrial properties, and their maximum rise is 9.5 inches, which we will be able to fall well under. We are 106 inches tall here, and if we were to do 11 steps up to the top, with your 12th step being onto the mezzanine itself, we come up with 8.83 inches, which is just over 8 13/16. So I think that's what we'll do. So what we're going to do is measure from the top down 8 13/16 inches, right down like that. So we got our mark right there, and all we're going to do is take our level and level off from the mark, use that as our straight edge. So we got it leveled off, and there's our mark. Now we can pull this stringer off and lay the rest of it out. So what we're going to do is take our little sliding T-bevel and match this angle. Then we'll take a square, go 8 13/16 down. I could go up to the house and grab my framing square to make this a little bit easier, but I'll just use this as our straight edge. Now we got both sides laid out. We should be good to go and just be able to slam our treads right into place. But we really can't just screw through the side of the stringer into the end of the 2x10 that we're using as our tread plates. So that is where this angle that we have here comes into handy. We now have a pile of these. What are these? Those guys are going to get mounted to the side of the stringer like that, 1.5 inches below the line, and they will be a nice strong mount for our stairs. See, we need these stairs to be nice and strong because, once again, I am the common denominator in all my life's problems. That's right, I went ahead and bought more stuff. Just what I needed. Man, guys, I thought I told you a while back to not let me buy anything else. Merlin has too much cargo capacity for my own good. Maybe I should have brought the Freelander because I probably wouldn't have been able to haul as much home. But I promise you, there is some neat stuff in there. Especially that. I also promise you, I'm my own worst enemy. And we are going to need a place for said stuff to go, and I ain't using a ladder. And to think, I just got rid of trash can, the daycare center UFC ring, a few other things. We were starting to clear things out. We just gotta make sure the top is the right distance apart as well. Not even close. Still off. There we go. So we got our stringers mounted up top, nailed in with our hangers. Now we just need to figure out getting the actual steps in place. I just kind of laid these in so we could set the correct width at the bottom along with the top. Keep everything nice and parallel, maybe even square. Now we're just going to use our little lag screws, even though as you can see these are pro, which is way beyond my skill level. But now we're just going to zip a couple of those up from the bottom. Just not quite enough room on this first step to get the impact underneath, so we'll have to go the old-fashioned route. We can probably get this ladder out of there. Won't be needing this anymore. because we're building our little staircase to heaven. Land Rover parts heaven, that is. But no, we'll just keep walking on up to the next one and use the stairs to build themselves. There we have these stairs knocked out. Pretty pleased with how those turned out. I got a few too many things here in the shop, so it's hard to get a wide view of them, but I really like the openness with the treads mounted by the angle iron there. And with the 2x10s, she feels nice and sturdy. No worries there. I'd say that's a tiny bit easier than the ladder. That angle and the step height doesn't seem to be an issue. We do have one issue though. It doesn't match. We have everything else that is wood painted in the shop. So I got a brush, a little more black magic, and we're gonna make these guys fit in by matching that and that. Some of these videos I make can be a bit like watching paint dry. There is our finished product. I think those are gonna do the trick, and I think the look blends in well with the rest of the shop. It's like a sleek, modern style step. What do you guys think? I think ultimately we'll probably throw some grip tape down on the treads just for a little extra traction, kind of like airing down tires. First footprints, what are you gonna do? This is one of those projects where I'm wondering why I didn't do this 6 months ago, but I guess the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. I guess we have another issue though. They aren't quite complete because I do like to live on the edge, but sometimes I don't want to fall off. So I think a couple of these guys are going to come in handy. To make those guys into what I want, we're going to have to switch the saw over here. 45 degrees. That was loud. We got those all made up, so the saw needs to go back to where it was so we can cut these. So now we just need to buzz those guys together. Only problem is, it's the weekend, and my 100% argon is empty. Good thing Ted's not too far away. Nice that Ted had a bottle full of gas, so we can actually weld these guys up. His little Rover bunker is pretty well set up as well. And you guys are gonna wanna check this thing out. It's pretty freaking wild. It's been Ted's main project for a bit, and we'll launch that thing on the channel in the next couple months. We may be busting the Eco Challenge back out tomorrow, so we got the battery charge in. I think we're gonna go on a little redemption trip after Moab. Maybe not quite as far, just a few hour drive to do a little wheeling. We'll see. That adventure might be on the next one. So these little stainless guys are going to be our uprights for the handrail. So we got our bottom mount, that'll go to the side of the stringer, and then this angled piece up top will be what the handrail bolts to. So that angle there matches the angle of the steps. Plumb this guy up. And there is our upright post. Nice little contrast against the black with the stainless steel. Now the next one has a little wider plate than the other two. And that is because there's a good chance the handrail will end up being two pieces because it's gonna be a little over 12 feet long. So the center one is where we will split those two pieces. And I just realized, pulled a real frickin' smooth move. Top plate, see anything wrong? Yep, freaking welded this one on backwards. So I guess that is where today ends, because we have a couple trips that we're gonna have to attend to, so we are just out of time. One of those trips involves Defender and Trek, so I think a handrail can wait. With that being said, appreciate you guys watching, appreciate you subscribing, and I am super happy to finally actually make the mezzanine useful. It hasn't 100% been wasted space, but it's felt like it. Who says a Freelander isn't useful? That's an 8-foot 2x4, and we didn't even have to stick it out the rear roll down window. Best Rover ever?